couple more questions. One, let's talk about Lil Boosie real quick. Now, you said some things on the podcast. I dropped it on Viral Hip Hop News. It got crazy attention. Elaborate on that, because you told him to keep his country ass out of West Coast affairs. Talk about what you meant by that, and also talk about just the reaction you got from it, and what you feel about Boosie. You have an issue with him, or is it just it was all love? How do you feel?
Never met him before in my life. Don't know anything about him. I'm learning a lot about him now. You know, I always listen to him on his last interviews. That's why I was tuned in to catch that. Love his mannerism. I like how he come across and all of that. But when I say use the word country, we all do that. One of my best friends growing up, we took off the C and put the B and called him Buntry. That's just what we call dudes from the South. Now, the way I said it, I probably should have been a little more diplomatic, and I apologize to brothers on the South for being that way, because I understand. I know there's a gangster in fucking Utah that you don't fuck with, because I watched the Sons of Anarchy. And so I know there's a motherfucker Jax Taylor out there that I don't need to run across.
Correct.
Run across. So I know that's in the South. I know there's dudes on the East. I know that's in every town. And so I'm not trying to pull or say just because I'm from the West Coast and Compton and all of that we're any tougher than the next man, because we're not. Everybody bleed. Everybody can be touched. I'm a stone believer of that. I stand by what I said to Boosie as far as, hey, just like I just spoke on some of y'all business out there on 6ix9ine. But I wasn't I was just giving an opinion about the music business and all of that. I can't now tell Shiny Nell shouldn't have put him on and they were wrong for doing that and all of that. My whole thing is, you don't know what happened. If you don't know, you haven't did the homework and the history to know what happened to cause that, or what the repercussions behind that, to say that we didn't have no love for Pop because we allowed that to happen, and why is KPD still walking the streets and all of that, then that's not your business and you need to stay out of that. But yeah, how my approach to saying that and all of that is very childish and wrong on my part. But
did you receive any backlash or any, any of his fans or anybody from the South, coming at you too much? Probably, huh?
Well, not yet, but not yet. But I mean, I got to be who I am, and I can't worry about that. If I look at everybody as a threat. Nigga approach me, you a threat. I always tell people, I ain't never been an offensive football player, but I was a defensive player, so I'm always on my defense. So, but hey, Reggie Wright could be touched too. I just hope to be in my best defensive behavior that day, or my best defensive tactic that day. But every time I see somebody out and about that recognize me and all of that stuff, it's been nothing but love, man.
That's a fact. We can attest to that, man. It's always good energy out here, man. Salute to you, Reggie Wright, 1/3 of the Gangster Chronicles, for a dynamic interview. I got a couple more questions, but I'm gonna leave those for the next interview because I'm hoping we can get you back on this set.
Anytime, I gotta go sit down for a minute, and so I don't know how long I'll be a free man, but it ain't gonna be that long. But man, if y'all can check out and support Gangster Chronicles over there, we come out with a new episode every Thursday, and then we also do like you guys do on YouTube and put out like a 10-15 minute snippet of the hot subjects and all of that on our YouTube channel, Digital Soapbox. I don't even know the name. Digital Soapbox Network.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all go and subscribe and check that out, and check me out on if you have any questions that you really want to ask. Bomb first Pacific time, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, which I know is a little late for most of you guys out there. But if you ever got any live questions you want to ask, man, I'm an open book.
Real quick, when are you set to sit down, if you don't mind me asking? And for how long?
I'm set to sit down for some. I was sending some weed through the mail from California to Memphis, Tennessee. Got caught off in that little case, and I got sentenced to 18 months, which is about 14 months, once they do the 80%. And I don't know. It'll be sometime in October. I should be getting a letter to report my ass to somebody prison. But it's all good. I need to learn. I need to go and get my ass in shape anyways. Most of our administrators was black as well, or at least half of them were.
Right. Explain the code, because we hear about Tekashi 6ix9ine snitching, and then the previous podcast I talked about even police have this code of conduct, code of honor. Talk about that, and have you ever seen anything crazy? And how do police do they tell on each other, or do they turn a blind eye? If you can take us a little bit behind that aspect.
I was in law enforcement in the 90s, man, and I'll tell you,
got busy.
Yeah,
it was crazy because Ronald Reagan had dumped all of that cocaine in our areas and stuff, so it made the streets crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's another story. But after Rodney King, man, and when you saw those CHP officers got on the stand, and I know most of our people don't know what I'm talking about because they're a little younger, but you had some CHP officers and LAPD officers that chased Rodney King, and the LAPD officers was the one to beat his ass. But the CHP officers was the one kind of initiated the pursuit and was standing around. They got on the stand and testified against the LAPD officers. And once that happened, that code blew, and people seen, and they had the trial and everything on TV, and that's what caused the riots and all of that. That's when cops, I think, in my opinion, understand that, hey, they'll put your ass in jail too if you do something wrong, that, management and supervision is not behind you like you thought they were.
Right. Talk about cops now and the stigma behind cops. Because I was listening to you talk on the podcast, one of your podcasts, and just the negative stigma that just goes behind police. And God and I were having a conversation as far as black cops, and I want you to elaborate on this too, and their place in the police force. And both of us had a very hard time finding a spot for black officers, but understanding it's a necessity for them, because if there isn't black officers, who the fuck's gonna look like us out there to help at all? Get into that dynamic and talk about what you feel about how you feel about police in general now.
Yeah. Well, I still have ultimate respect for good police officers. I mean, on both sides. I mean, what I meant by that is I don't work with guys that are gang members and all of that stuff, and so I have respect for gang members as well, the ones that ain't, pedophiles and just killers, just serial killers and all of that. But what I mean by good officers, motherfuckers that ain't out there because people always want to say, oh, you was a dirty cop, or you was this or this. And the question I always ask them, have you ever heard of me planting dope on anybody? Have you ever heard of me taking money or bribes? But just because I fraternized and was cool with niggas that I grew up with, that makes you dirty. And that's the stigma that people get. And that's the unfortunate thing about black officers is they have something in law enforcement called fraternization or fraternizing. And they hate for you to be cool with the people you're policing. And, and live in the same community, which I feel, my father and I lived in the same community for a while that we were policing. And, because both my grandparents grew up in the city and raised and still, one of my grandmothers still lives in the city of Compton. And so you get this problem with people thinking everybody got to move out and be away and all of that. And they forget that you grew up with these people and all of that, and you're going to have relationships with people. Because they, had to sell drugs or do this, don't make them a bad person. And it's hard for white cops that from another county or another area to understand that, hey, I got relationships with these people. I know this nigga mama, his mother or his brother or whatever. I used to play baseball or basketball at the park with or grew up with. generally I was fucking on one of their sisters or something like that, or had, or wanted to.
Back.
The wife that I'm married to now, her brother was a big neighborhood Compton Crip dude. Still to this day, as a 40, 50-year-old guy can't claim a game, which we know is crazy or ludicrous, but he still, they go somewhere, he gonna throw up the in-hood Compton Crip sign or whatever. And that's what my wife, her brother, and when they have funerals and people that dies from their neighborhood, all that blue and all of that stuff come out. But that's their friends. That's what they grew up with. And so, but cops, man, for some reason feel once you become a cop, you got to disown everybody. And my whole thing and my thinking, luckily I had a father that kind of understood because he was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, but
we're gonna talk about that too.
Yeah, but his adulthood and from about being 12 to 13, he was in Watts and in the Imperial Court housing projects, and so he knew all these people as well, because he grew up with them and all of that. But he was one of those type of person that always been like a social worker type guy, that personality of jovial guy. If y'all saw him on the Biggie documentary when he came running out of my grandmother's house in Compton, with the Broomfield documentary, you can tell he's just even Nick Broomfield called him a jovial guy. That's Reggie Sr., and that's him. And you have some cops like that. Some cops have a problem with it. But I'll tell you, when that shit get crazy and you need somebody to go and talk to the community because it's 200 cops in Compton. It's 100,000 people in there. And you can't police, 200 people can't police 100,000 people without having somebody to go and be able to talk to people when the heats get on. That's why we had riots and stuff like that in the past. There was nothing you really could do if people want to do a revolt or a takeover, for lack of a better word. Yeah.
Absolutely. How did you make the transition, from, being a police officer into, being a bodyguard, Suge Knight, Death Row? Can you take us into that time in your life where you made that transition?
Yeah. Well, what happened was, this happened I became a police officer working for the police department in 1985. I was real young, 19 years old. And I ended up retiring in 1996. But during that time in 1994, I had a traffic accident. So I was kind of looking for a way out because my ankle had got messed up and I messed up my ankle in a traffic accident. But like I said, all the guys that was working for Death Row and around Death Row, I knew. I grew up with. These were dudes I played basketball, baseball. Suge Knight and I played on the same high school football team. That's why we had a decent relationship and everything. And so it was an easy transformation for when he needed good armed security because of the incident that happened with Snoop, with the bodyguard that was really quote unquote, he was good in martial arts and all of that, but he wasn't supposed to have a gun on him. And the liability when you start to make hundreds of $1 million that it will cost your company having guys that are not trained or supposed to be trained, it jeopardized you to major lawsuits. So that's when, he decided after some conversation and stuff like that, hey, let me get some dudes that I could supposedly trust and bring them on. And at least they can be good witnesses where I can try to show juries and law enforcement and all of that, and white world, meaning Interscope and Priority Records and all of that I'm trying to do the right thing with this company.
Take us to a journey because correct me if I'm wrong, but the journey of Death Row Records didn't start with Suge Knight. And a lot of us, especially us growing up being on the East Coast, we remember Death Row being synonymous with Suge Knight, Dre, Snoop, Pac, Nate Dogg, Corrupt Daz. We all remember the crew and them having beef with the East Coast and things like that. But there's a whole history behind Death Row. Can you run us through who initially started Death Row and how it eventually got in the hands of Suge Knight?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh shit! Okay, I'm sorry.
I give the credit. I mean, it was 4 people originally, according to a lawsuit, Suge won't say this, but it was originally DOC, Dick Griffey, Dr. Dre, and Suge. I don't. That Harry-O bullshit is bullshit to me.
Okay.
It's like you have a company or you have a business, and you just need somebody to invest into the company, and the dude makes some calls, and he make it happen. That's all Harry-O did, according to Suge.